is new, they have made a mistake with. Up here, it talks about a Christian McLagan who determined that these were domestic structures. It should say Christian McLagan wrongly thought these were domestic structures because they weren't. More and more stone, one big stone on the top. More of the small material over the top of that, and a very low ceiling on the entry passage. So very dark in here. It's not for living in, it's for depositing the ashes of your departed relatives.
Oh, I see.
But not forever. It's a temporary storage. So if we imagine that we have an elderly relative who dies at a very, very old age, like maybe 37, because mostly these people live to be 35.
Yeah.
We're bioengineered to be 35. It's why our teeth and our joints get sore when we hit 36. So, our elderly relative dies. We cremate that elderly relative. We have a big party. And then we put the ashes in a pot called a beaker. The archaeologists call these people the beaker people. We take the elderly relative's ashes in here and we set them down. And then we go about our lives for the rest of the year. We regather in here with Mildred or whoever our elderly relative is, and we do that on the 21st of December. It's the 5th and most important date in the calendar for Clan, because on the 21st of December, midwinter solstice, the sun sets right behind you, and just before it drops out of sight behind the hill, it's low enough in the sky that it can shine down the passage. So we stand here waiting and we see a river of light. It flows down the passage, crosses the chamber, hits the back wall, fills the chamber with light, and in that instant the spark or the essence that makes Mildred Mildred goes off down the river of light to whatever adventure awaits her next. So these were built as kind of a way station to whatever comes next, the afterlife.
Here at the Glen Ord Distillery, about to sample 3 different types of scotch. Okay, ready?
Nah, it's not the same. You've got to do like the weight. It didn't really go much, but it brings the substance in this like a wider range of aromas out of flavours.
Yes, it is. So long as you're very, very careful.
Okay.
She can move her head quite fast if she thinks there's a fly at her.
Oh, okay.
And so she can pretzelate you by accident.
Okay.
Yeah. Katie. Shout again for them.
One more.
Thank you. A little while from now, Jamie will get little tiny stubby horns, and then they'll grow and grow and grow this way.
Okay.
Not like them. Females are that way, males is that way.
Oh, okay. I see. What's this one's name? I don't remember.
She is. She's really cute. Heather.
So Katie's following you.
Yes, she is.
She loves you.
On the reverse, deer hide. That's for impact absorption. Something hits the front, you're going to get a lot less rattle up your arm if you've got the deer hide on the back. Lots of brass on the front. The brass has three primary functions. First off, bragging rights. That amount of brass is not cheap. The more brass you can load on the front of your shield, the more you're saying quite a well-heeled individual. Second up, identification. There are recognisable patterns on some targes. So there is a pattern called Fraser of Lovett. There is a pattern called MacDonald of Kepper. This is a fighting targe. It's a standard kind of a pattern. Third up, practical defence. Your opponent's sword blade will glance off these brass bosses. A musket ball will even glance off these brass bosses if it hits from a far enough range with the right angle of strike. How do we know this? This is not Hugh Allison speaking. Because of the staff barbecues at Culloden. You hit the third beer and somebody says, hey, I wonder if a targe would stop a musket ball. Then you think, I've got all the component parts right here. But we've never tested it with a real live human behind the targe. That would just be foolishness. So you place it on a grassy banking and then undertake your scientific experiment. I said it was called a fighting targe. Why a fighting targe? Because in common with about 30% of them, it comes complete with a demountable spike.
Ooh.
So it's now still defensive, but it's offensive as well, using the big muscle group. Why demountable? Because when I'm out on the march, maybe walking through the night, something like the night march to Nairn, sling it on my back. Now, if the guy behind me trips, you've got Highlander kebab.
Yeah.
Nobody wants Highlander kebab, so it's demountable. You might have thought that was a very modern kind of a fixing. Threaded screw.
Oh.
But it isn't. They had threaded screws back then. Not only that, there's an example up in Culloden from the time, this is reproduction, there's one up there from the time that's got a square machine spike. And it goes right through and it's held on the back by a square nut.
Oh, wow.
And you think of that as being modern as well, but it isn't. All the way back to the 1700s, possibly even the late 1600s. So that's your fighting targe. What would you use that with? Well, you have a couple of different options.
Small spoon, yeah.
It feels to me that if I hit any real resistance, that's as far as it's going. This is my weak arm, and yet if I put it there, and do that, I feel it's going to keep going no matter what it hits. And the reason for that is because if you put a big weight on the arm, I can't remember exactly how the physics of it works, but I know that the movement plus the weight equals momentum, and I've now got far more momentum in this arm. It would take an awful lot to stop that arm running all the way through, just because of the weight that's pulling it through. These features on it, the scalloped edge, useful on a day-to-day basis as a bone saw.
Oh, wow.
Useful when fighting, because if you quarter turn on the way out, it creates a wound so ragged it won't heal.
Can you hold it again? No, hold it with that one again.
This way. Any cook will tell you If you shove a big knife in a steak, try and pull it out again, it won't come. Because the meat holds the blade. It's like a vacuum. So if you push this in a large steak called Corporal Hawkins, and then try and pull it back out again, you're going to have to brace to pull it out. Then you're very exposed here. But if you put in an air channel, then the blade will go in and back out again just as fast, because you've broken the vacuum. So it slides in and out at the same speed. There's a lot of thinking behind it all.
Yeah.
What else might I use with my targe? Let's have a look. Dune pistol. Called a Dune pistol because they were made principally in the town of Dune, where there was a whole street of artisan pistol makers who made these beautiful objects out of used horseshoe nails. Now the Highlanders, their primary economy at this point was cattle. Dairy cattle, Highland cattle like you've just seen. Thousands upon thousands, if not millions, of head of that kind of cattle. And they would walk them south to the big cattle markets just outside of Edinburgh. Sometimes they would be hired from there to walk them all the way down to Smithfield Market outside of London. It was called cattle droving, and it was the whole economy of the Highlands. Now, if you wanted pistols, you could route yourself through the town of Doon and leave your design. And when you pass through the town of Doon later on your way home, your pistol is ready and waiting for you. Might have cost you a couple of cattle. But every one was unique, handcrafted and individual. This one has got flowers all the way down the barrel.
Oh, wow.
I've seen them with lines of poetry. I've seen them with the owner's name. This one is authentic, by the way. It's not reproduction. It's just like a musket. It takes as long to load. It takes about 20 seconds to 30 seconds to load a musket. It takes about 25 to 30 seconds to load one of these. So you're not going to do it in the middle of the battle.
No.
Even if you choose a really kind of mellowed out looking redcoat, when you run up to him and say, could you just give me half a minute? He's not going to say yes. So you load it before you go. And you socket it there, and then you run across the field. Your friend on your right is hoping that you won't trip on the way across the field. That could all end very badly. When you get in against those muskets, it's exactly the same move that I just showed you with the dirk. You come up and under hard, you catch the musket here, and as you push the musket aside, you're about a foot away, maybe less, so you can't miss. And that's a very good thing. If I was to walk over here and attempt to shoot you from here, I would miss. Because this is only good for 5 to 6 feet. It's exactly the same as a smooth bore musket. There is no rifling in there. It's just a big smooth barrel. You just drop a pistol ball in there, and when it comes out, it could go in any direction, just depending on how it rattles down the barrel. So we remember the duel at Sandringham's place?
Yes, yes.
And they're back to back, and each take 10 steps. How many feet in a step?
Foot and a half.
It's 2.5 to 3, that's right. So if I do 10 of them, I'm about 25 to 30 feet. Thing is, I'm not the only person moving, am I? They're moving as well. So by the time we turn around and go wham, we're 50 to 60 feet apart with a weapon that's good for 5 to 6 feet, which is the point at which you go, it's a miracle. I'm unharmed and I can go home with my honour intact, because it was all about honour. Now by the late 1800s, they've started rifling the inside of these barrels, and they're making them a lot longer, and the death rate starts to rise. And that's the point at which it becomes made completely illegal, pistol dueling. But 1740s, no, you're still using something that's good for 5 to 6 feet. Once you've shot it, what do you do with it? You've not got 25 seconds to reload it in the middle of so you just drop it. Not reproduction. Provenance on the blade, about 1720 is what they say. Absolutely beautiful piece of swordsmanship, unique, and the blades were not made here. The blades were made in Germany or Spain because that's where the steel was best. The Scottish swordsmiths designed the basket, invented and designed the basket, and married the two together. So when you look at the port documentation of the 1700s, you see a lot of paperwork for bales of blades coming in through the ports. What's so special about the basket? Quite a lot.
Touch my hand.
1, 2 are called lugs. They are specifically designed to catch your opponent's blade. And you're one on each side, no matter what way they happen to slide. A nasty thing that can happen if you're a swordsman is if your opponent's blade glances down the back and keeps going. You're not a swordsman who's looking at your sword in hand on the ground. It's a sad and sorry mess to be in. But if you put a catcher in the design, then the blade comes down, stops there, and goes no further. So that innocent looking little catcher protects my entire wrist and arm. If I run across the field, screaming like Animal from the Muppet Show, I was just checking out where the lights were, like this, and you end up nose to nose with your red coat, how can you utilise 3 feet of steel in the space you've got left? Simple answer is you don't. Pommel button. You pull that pommel button down on the top of their head as hard as you can, and it is designed to do a job just about as effective as the blade does. If I skipped and hopped and whistled my way insouciantly across the battlefield and ended up nose to nose with my red coat, I have the same problem, 3 feet of steel and insufficient space to use it. But you can drop the blade and punch, and you've been granted the most fearsome looking knuckle duster you'll ever see. So in fact, this is 3 weapons. This is 2 weapons. So I'm using 5 weapons that, if I'm a Highland Clansman, I've been training in since I was about 8. And it becomes very balletic. In the hand grip, shark skin or ray skin chased round with silver wire. So it never gets too slippy, no matter what is flowing through the basket. It is, it's a thing that can do. Finish the whole thing off with a nice square of red cloth in between my hand and the basket. It's got pretty much a triple function, same as the deer hide on the shield. It's impact absorbent. It's also cheerful, it's the same colour as Santa's trousers. But best of all, it's psychological. Because ask yourself the question, where did I get that square of red cloth? That's correct. I cut it from Corporal Hawkins' uniform after I did for him. So what that square of red cloth is saying is, not a rookie, been round the block, I am entirely blooded, I have the proof, and you're in trouble. Just every little psychological thing that you can do to help, you do it. So that's what the red cloth does. 2 swords up there, both have the red cloth in the hand grip. How do you use the whole lot together? Well, if you're coming in against 2 lines of red coats, you come in low, hard and fast. You push aside and you grab, take 1 step further and straight down through the collarbone of the man behind. Because the collarbone is the weakest part of the human frame, and if you bring the great cleaver through the collarbone, it's immediately in all the stuff that counts. This was called a basket-hilted broadsword because it's got a basket hilt, and because it's 1 foot spike in front of it, because it's very easy to forget when you can't see it.
You ready for battle?
ceiling.
If you're interested in a fierce looking new profile pic, I would do it that way.
It's a bit of a. You just want to have a swim and then.
It's like this.
Yeah.
You're good.
I don't think
I have a T-Rex. Here are just a little bit narrow and windy. Winding trail. And we're off once again. Hate you, Katie. These stones better be worth it.
It's just a mountain.
Just a mountain.
A store. It's just.
Whatever the hell it is. Better be worth it. You know, a little label by the gate that said "Miles, hike may kill you" warning. Would have been nice. See all those little tiny people up there? This was Katie's idea.